After my husband's death in battle, I managed the vast Marquise's estate and adopted a son. But in my twilight years, I saw my husband again. Not only was he alive, but he had remarried, had children, and was surrounded by a loving family. Even more infuriating, my adopted son was his biological child. My husband feigned gratitude. Thanks to you, Amelia and I were able to live a life of love and freedom, and our son was able to inherit the title smoothly. Amelia spoke to me alone, her voice dripping with contempt. To be honest, sister, my husband and I knew each other before you were married. It was my idea to make you a widow for life. I coughed up blood and died on the spot. When I opened my eyes again, the news of my husband's death had just reached the estate. But I had once saved a stable boy who bore a striking resemblance to my husband. If he could fake his death, I could find someone to replace him. On my deathbed, I saw my husband who had been dead for many years. I had married into the Marquise's estate at 17. On our wedding night, he was sent to war by imperial decree. By 18, I was a widow. 30 years had passed in a flash, and my life's devotion had only served to benefit others. I was emaciated, but my husband was elegant and composed. It was clear he had lived well. Thank you for taking care of my mother, for seeing her through her final years. And thanks to you, Amelia and I were able to live a life of love and freedom. Amelia was the wife he had married. She was about my age, but there were few signs of aging on her. Her face glowed with the radiance of a life lived to the fullest. Sister Leo is our biological son. My mother-in-law knew the truth all along. That is why she had you adopt him, my husband added. Now that my biological son has inherited the title, I can return to the estate and live out my years in peace. I was so angry I nearly fainted. My adopted son obviously knew the truth too. No wonder he had been so eager to seize power and had treated me with such disrespect. Besides my adopted son, my husband and Amelia had several other children. Now, they were surrounded by a large and happy family. I had become the biggest joke in the world. Amelia found another opportunity to see me alone. She dropped her mask and mocked me relentlessly. Did you know? You were able to marry into the Marquise's estate all because of me. Because you were an illegitimate daughter, disliked by your own family, and had a docile personality. People like you are the easiest to manipulate. My husband and I knew each other long before. Your marriage was a setup. I was the daughter of a disgraced official and couldn't marry him openly. So we came up with this plan. With you managing the estate, my husband and I could live a carefree and happy life. Eleanor, just accept it. As an illegitimate daughter, you were born to be inferior, destined to pave the way for me. I coughed up a mouthful of blood and died of rage. I woke with a start. The feelings of hatred, regret, and suffocation lingered. Listening to the sounds of weeping outside and looking at the furnishings in the room, I was certain I had been reborn. Could it be that even the heavens couldn't stand it, so they had granted me a second chance? The news of my husband's death had just reached the estate, but I knew the truth. He had faked his death to be with his lover, Amelia, but what made them think that this time, I would pave the way for them again? I had no time to deal with the current situation at the estate. After a brief investigation, I immediately went out to meet someone. Since Adrian was so reluctant to return to the estate, I would find someone to replace him completely. When I saw the familiar stable boy, he was carrying sacks at the docks. It was a scorching July. He was shirtless, and large beads of sweat dripped from his skin. My maid reminded me, "My lady, please be mindful of the propriety between men and women." But having lived a second life, I knew exactly what I wanted and what I didn't. In my past life, I had been bound by the 3 cardinal guides and 5 constant virtues, by chastity and shame. Life was hard enough. Why be constrained by rules and regulations? The stable boy saw me and was visibly startled. His dark eyes lighting up, I beckoned, and he quickly ran over. The man stopped 3 steps away from me. He was tall and well-built. He scratched his head awkwardly and grinned, revealing a set of straight, white teeth. "Benefactor, what are you doing here?" I studied him carefully. The resemblance was uncanny. With a little grooming and training, he could be a perfect double. I was direct. You once said you would repay my kindness with your life. Does that offer still stand? The man was taken aback, then nodded decisively. Just say the word, benefactor, and I will give my life for you. I don't want your life, I said. I want you. 3 years ago, a princess's horse had bolted. As a stable boy, he was implicated and beaten half to death by the princess's guards, then thrown into the West Market to be sold. I happened to be passing by that day and bought him for 3 taels of silver. It was inconvenient to bring him back to the estate, and I was short on money, so I housed him in a dilapidated temple, bringing him medicine and food every 2 days. The man had a strong will to live and managed to pull through. He wanted to acknowledge me as his master. At that time, I was still the unfavored illegitimate daughter of my family. With only one maid, I couldn't afford another servant, so I gave him his freedom. He had always remembered this kindness. In my past life, he had actually made a name for himself, opening the largest security company in the capital. He would send me large sums of money every year. He never married and remained single. How could I not see his feelings for me? But out of concern for my family's reputation, and the title of chaste widow the Marquise's estate had bestowed upon me, I had chosen the loneliest path. If I hadn't seen Adrian before I died in my past life, I would never have known that 2 people could look so alike. Now, the man's mouth hung open, as if in shock. Benefactor, you want me? I smiled and nodded. Come with me. My family would not care about my well-being. Divorce was not an option. Besides, this time I would make the Marquise's estate my own. Adrian and Amelia would not get another penny of support. In my past life, Adrian had secretly contacted his mother and convinced her to continuously send him money, allowing him and Amelia to live a life of luxury. But that money was not all from the estate's coffers. It was also the fruit of my labor from managing shops and estates. Without the financial support of the Marquise's estate, I wanted to see how that wild couple would manage their romantic escapades. The stable boy was obedient and immediately came with me. I took him to a resting place in the countryside. After marrying into the Marquise's estate, my mother-in-law had given me a rural estate to manage. I had made arrangements in advance. This place was private. I spoke to him alone. You said your name was Ethan, with no surname. I will give you a new identity. After you have helped me, if you wish to stay, we can be together. If not, I will let you go. Then I explained my plan. I also told him that my husband had faked his death to run away with someone. Of course, there is a risk. If we fail, we will both be in trouble. Have you thought it through? I waited for his reply, but he just stared at me. His tanned skin gradually turned red. After a moment, he said hesitantly, Be together with my benefactor. Can I be with my benefactor for life? I was taken aback. His focus was not what I had expected. So are you willing? I asked again. This time, he blurted out, I am willing. I smiled. Then from now on to the outside world, you are the Marquis of Anyuan, Adrian, he blushed. I will do as you say, benefactor. He looked a little shy. I then realized he was only about 20 years old, but years of hard labor had made him look no younger than Adrian. He still needed to work on his demeanor. I remembered something and cleared my throat. Could you take off your clothes and let me have a look? Before coming, I had investigated and found that Adrian had no birthmarks. I had thought that after Ethan replaced him, the real Adrian would eventually hear the news and come back to confront him. So I had to prevent any potential problems. Ethan's mouth dropped open, and he suddenly became flustered. Now, benefactor, isn't this a bit too fast? I have no experience. I am not ready. He was as red as a cooked shrimp. I belatedly realized what he was thinking and slapped my forehead. I felt my own ears grow hot. Ethan, don't be nervous. I just want to check if you have any birthmarks. The young man, stunned, obediently took off his clothes. His muscles were well defined. I could manage to inspect his upper body, but when a certain part of him came into view, I quickly turned away. Even so, I caught a glimpse of his erection. Benefactor, what is wrong? I feigned composure. Ethan, just check yourself carefully. Do you see any birthmarks? The young man stood there, unabashed, and looked himself over. No, benefactor, no birthmarks. Clean as a whistle. You can check if you don't believe me. I turned my back to him completely. Get dressed. He got dressed. The atmosphere became awkward. I gave him some more instructions. Although you look like Adrian, it won't be easy to pass as him. I won't send you to the estate right away. You need to learn to read, write, and practice martial arts. He nodded repeatedly. He was not stupid, on the contrary. He was exceptionally intelligent. I was in no hurry to have him replace Adrian. This had to be done meticulously. After settling him in, I returned to the Marquise's estate. The estate was already draped in white, and my mother-in-law was wailing. When she saw me, her grief turned to anger, and she slapped me. Your husband is dead, and you have the audacity to go out. Do you have a heart? Her grief seemed genuine. It seemed she didn't know the truth yet. I feigned sorrow, not wanting to deal with this drama. I glanced at the blood-stained clothes in the coffin, closed my eyes, and pretended to faint. The mourning hall was thrown into chaos. I heard my second aunt-in-law telling my mother-in-law, sister-in-law, now that Adrian is gone, Eleanor must remain a widow. Don't drive her away. With her here, at least she can serve you and share your burdens. How ridiculous. Adrian was barely dead, and the family had already decided my future. I was carried back to my room for the next while. I pretended to be overwhelmed with grief, neither serving my mother-in-law nor managing the household. Until one day, her mood changed drastically. She was practically beaming. She came to see me herself, even bringing pastries, a rare occurrence. Daughter-in-law, you must take care of yourself. Adrian is gone, but we must go on. When the time is right, you can adopt a son, and you will have something to look forward to. I sneered inwardly. It seemed Adrian had already contacted her, and, if I wasn't mistaken, Amelia was pregnant. The right time she was talking about was after Amelia gave birth. Why should I raise their child? I played along, pretending to agree. Before that, Ethan would be in the estate, and we would have our own child. There would be no need to adopt. After my mother-in-law left happy, I sent a message to Ethan. He had 7 months to practice his writing and martial arts as much as possible. In my past life, I had seen his letters and had once seen him fight off bandits. He had a talent for both. 7 months passed in a flash. It was time for Ethan to enter the estate. He was a good actor, and his performance was convincing. He looked as if he had truly traveled a long way from the border. Even his dark eyes held the right amount of depth. His demeanor had changed too. That day, the Marquise's estate was in an uproar. The Marquise is back. The Marquise is alive. My mother-in-law and I rushed to the main gate. She was shocked, in disbelief. She didn't dare to approach, but she couldn't question him either. Because, at that moment, Ethan truly looked like Adrian. I wiped away a tear and threw myself into his arms. Husband, it is so good to have you back. My mother-in-law did not show the joy of seeing her own son. On the contrary, she repeatedly questioned him about many things. He answered them all. I had collected all of Adrian's preferences and habits and sent them to him, so despite her repeated attempts, she couldn't find any flaws. She even began to doubt herself, could this really be her son? Then, who was the person she had been corresponding with? The handwriting in the letters was definitely her son's. I led Ethan to bathe and change. My mother-in-law gave me a look. Your husband has returned from the dead. It is your duty to serve him. Go and see if he has any scars. My son was born without a single mark on his body. You must look carefully. She still didn't know that Ethan was my replacement. She was using me to inspect his body. I nodded. Yes, mother. In the room, only he and I were present. He had shed his shyness and truly exuded the air of a master. His eyes were dark as he stared at me, his voice low and hoarse. My lady, serve your husband in his bath. I was taken aback. Well, that was fine too. We were going to be a real couple anyway. He got into the tub. I averted my gaze, but his eyes were fixed on me. My lady, don't worry. I have learned his handwriting and his spear techniques. I know everything I need to know. I secretly sighed in relief. Outside, my mother-in-law called for me. I went out. She immediately asked, "Well, does he have any marks on his body?" I feigned confusion. "Mother, what do you mean?" "My husband was injured, but other than scars, there are no other marks." She frowned, flustered, and muttered. Could it be that I was really deceived? At dinner, she personally served him a large shrimp. "My son, I am so happy you are back safely. You've gotten so thin. Eat more to build up your strength." She stared at his face. He looked puzzled. "Mother, I can't eat shrimp. I get rashes. Have you forgotten?" She took a deep breath, the doubt on her face mostly gone. She burst into tears of joy. "It is good that you are back, my son." I sneered inwardly. She was probably starting to believe that he was her real son. I guessed it wouldn't be long before the real Adrian rushed back. But the Marquise's estate was no longer a place he could just walk into. Ethan, following my instructions, said, "Mother, I have been away for a year and have caused you much trouble. You can hand over the management of the household to my wife. At your age, you should be enjoying your grandchildren." With that, he took my hand. I looked shy and demure, hearing the words, "enjoying your grandchildren." She let her guard down and handed over the household token. After all, she had always been obedient to her son, taking the token. I swore to myself that from now on, no one would ever use me as a pawn again. After dinner, he eagerly pulled me into our room. His eyes were burning, his palm hot. To be at eye level with me, he lowered his head, his deep voice seductive. "My lady, I have learned many things, including that." I immediately understood what he meant. I had wanted to have my own child as soon as possible, but now that the moment was here, I was nervous. "There is no rush." He seemed quite disappointed. "Is that so? Then I was too hasty. Although that other man already has a child. We don't necessarily have to win. Winning or losing isn't that important." Very well, he had successfully ignited my competitive. Winning or losing wasn't important. But if it let me release some of my anger, why not? I gathered my courage, stood on my toes, and kissed him. The next moment, I was swept into his arms. The red curtains fell. He whispered in my ear, "My lady, I will be 100, 1,000 times better than him. What he owes you, I will make up for. You made the right choice in choosing me." He seemed to be trying to prove something. He did prove himself, but I felt like I had been dragged out of the water. In my past life, Amelia had mocked me for being an old virgin, unlike her, who had been cherished and nourished by Adrian. But this was truly hard to bear. Before falling asleep, I thought, with some surprise, was I doing it wrong? Or was I just too inexperienced to enjoy it? The next day, when I woke up, he had already gone to take care of his own affairs. He was even better at being a master of the house than I had imagined. He went to the West Market and selected 50 strong men, dismissed the estate's original guards, and replaced them with his own people. I watched his actions with approval, and I too gradually replaced a batch of the estate servants. However, to avoid alerting anyone, I didn't touch the servants in my mother-in-law's courtyard. Soon, my people brought news. "My lady, the matriarch has sent another letter to Fancheng." Fancheng was on the border. It was where Adrian and Amelia were staying. My mother-in-law, she still hadn't given up. That night, I told Ethan and reminded him, "It won't be long before Adrian returns. Are you ready to face him?" The battle of the true and false Marquis was about to begin. There was no anxiety on his face. He had already bathed, his inner robe wide open, revealing his strong, toned muscles. He leaned in and bit my ear. He had learned so much. "My lady, don't mention that buzzkill. Since he chose to abandon his identity, he shouldn't dream of being the Marquis of anyone again. My lady, you cried so much yesterday. I could only hold back tonight. You will know my true strength." I was shocked. What? He was holding back on me last night. Another night of passion. I finally understood what Amelia had meant in my past life. It was acceptable. 5 days later, a fierce horse galloped into the alley, and a gatekeeper rushed to announce the news, stumbling several times in his panic. "Another marquise has returned." My mother-in-law, as if expecting him, rushed to Adrian, tears streaming down her face. "My son, is it really you? Then, who is the one who came back before?" Adrian had learned from the letters that someone had replaced him. He was furious. He could fake his death, but he would not allow someone else to impersonate him. "Mother, I am your son. That man is an imposter." He drew his sword, vowing to kill the imposter. But at that moment Ethan, holding a long spear, had just returned from the training grounds. He exuded the authority of a great general and shouted, "Insolent! This marquis would like to see who dares to impersonate me." I arrived, having heard the news. I saw a carriage parked in the alley and the sound of a baby crying. It was Amelia and her son. The show was about to begin. Ethan had already had an audience with the Emperor and had been rewarded for his military service. The Emperor had not noticed anything amiss. For Adrian to challenge his identity was to question the Emperor himself. I stood by Ethan's side and looked at Adrian in shock. "Husband, this brute. How does he look so much like you? But it is a pity. He has a scar on his face, and he is not as handsome as you. He looks like a farmer." Life on the run had not been easy. After all, this time, I had intercepted the money my mother-in-law had sent. Adrian was furious. The estate he had abandoned was now someone else's home. The wife he had rejected was now another man's darling. At that moment, he felt an unprecedented rage. Yes, rage. What he had thrown away, no one else could have. And this man looked so much like him. In the past he wouldn't have worried, but he had been injured in battle and had a scar on his face. Life had been difficult lately, and he had to take care of Amelia and their son. He was exhausted. He had even exchanged his personal jade pendant for the horse and carriage. He had no proof of his identity now, and all of this was within my expectations. Without his mother's financial support, he would have to sell all his valuables. I pointed at him angrily. "You scoundrel, who sent you? What is your purpose in coming to the Marquis of anyone's estate?" Ethan put an arm around me, his other hand holding the long spear. "Are you looking to die?" Adrian had never been so humiliated. He raised his sword to attack. Ethan pulled me behind him and brandished his spear. Adrian's eyes were red with anger. "That is my dragon's roar spear. This Marquise's dragon's roar spear. How could it be yours?" The two of them began to fight. My mother-in-law stood by, shocked and horrified. I had been worried about Ethan, but seeing that Adrian was no match for him, I was relieved. Ethan was naturally strong. The dragon's roar spear, which weighed dozens of pounds, was like a wooden stick in his hands. Adrian had inherited his father's title, but he had been spoiled since childhood, and his martial arts skills were mediocre. That is why he hadn't taken the dragon's roar spear with him on his last campaign, and he had only gone to war to fake his death. He had no intention of fighting. He was exhausted from his long journey and from taking care of Amelia and their son. Suddenly, Ethan disarmed him. Adrian was knocked to the ground, splayed out like a giant toad. I burst out laughing. "Husband, you are so amazing. This scoundrel is such a weakling, and he dares to impersonate the Marquis of anyone. What a fool. Let's just kill him." Ethan put a foot on his back, turned to me, and said, seeking praise, "My lady, wipe my sweat." I walked over and wiped the sweat from his brow with a scented handkerchief. Adrian saw this and immediately started cursing. "Adulterers, Eleanor, you bitch, I am your husband. You are so shameless, I will divorce you. Divorce me." On what grounds? Because he was beaten and couldn't fight back. Stop it, you can't hit the Marquis. He is the real Marquis of anyone. I can prove it." Amelia got out of the carriage holding a swaddled baby. She had just given birth and looked haggard, far from the radiant woman of my past life. It seemed that taking care of a child aged everyone. I stared at the baby in her arms, my eyes turning cold. In my past life, this child had been sent to me to raise. I had poured my heart and soul into him, treating him as my own. But what happened in the end? She and my mother-in-law had conspired to poison my food, leaving me riddled with illness before I was even 40. My mother-in-law's eyes lit up at the sight of the baby. Amelia, knowing how to play her cards, immediately handed the baby to her. Mother, look, this child is the spitting image of Adrian when he was young. He is his own flesh and blood. You can tell at a glance. My mother-in-law was overjoyed. This must be my grandson. There is no mistake. Inspired, Adrian shouted to her. Mother, when I was 5, you personally sewed me a tiger head hat. When I was 7, I was almost bitten by the censor's dog. When I was 10, I went to the border with father. My mother-in-law burst into tears and knelt down to hug him. You are my son. Everything you said is true. She glared at Ethan. And who are you? Let go of my son. Ethan removed his foot from Adrian's back. We exchanged a look. There were some things Ethan didn't know. After all, I couldn't investigate every single detail, so we had to remain calm and not let them keep harping on the details. Mother, I said, the things this man has said are known to the servants in the estate. They cannot be used as proof. My mother-in-law wailed. Heavens, what is happening? Someone is impersonating my son, trying to take the title of Marquis of Enuan. Amelia shot me a triumphant, provocative look. I took Ethan's hand and told him to calm down. Since my husband's identity is in question, let's have someone come and identify him. After all, your words are just empty claims. Besides, my husband can indeed wield the dragon's roar spear and has defeated this scoundrel. Everyone knows that my husband is a skilled martial artist and is best with the spear. That is not wrong, is it? My mother-in-law, her face streaked with tears, was already leaning toward Adrian and Amelia. Fine, then let's have someone come. Adrian got to his feet and glared at me. His eyes filled with a hatred that could have flayed me alive. You unfaithful bitch. Ethan put his arm around me and faced him, his presence no less imposing. My wife was properly married to me. What are you? Further words were useless. I mediated, and everyone temporarily entered the estate. I then quickly returned to my family's home. My family did not favor me, so when Adrian had come to ask for my hand, my father had readily agreed. He hadn't been curious why the Marquise of Enuan would marry an illegitimate daughter. He hadn't investigated that Adrian already had a lover, who was the daughter of the disgraced Lynn family. As long as I could marry well, I was a good daughter, a useful pawn. I had my father and brother meet me in the study and stated my purpose directly. My father was shocked. What? 2 Marquises of Enuan. Which one is real? The one you've been with, is he real or fake? My brother was also flustered. The one our 4th sister has been with. He can't be a fake otherwise, the family's reputation will be ruined. I knew that is what they were most worried about. My father roared at me. Speak up. Are you mute, you idiot? Can't you even tell the difference between the real and the fake Marquis? I slapped him. My father was stunned. My brother was also frozen. My mother had died long ago. I had no weaknesses. This time I would do everything I could to secure my own future. Father, shut up, I said. Whether my husband is the real Marquis or not, he has to be the real one. Not only must I insist on this, but our family must fully support him. Otherwise, if my husband is proven to be a fake, I will be shamed, and our other sisters will have no chance of marriage. My father, still reeling from the slap. You are threatening me. I nodded. Yes, I am. At worst, we all go down together. My brother came to his senses and pulled at my father's sleeve. 4th sister is right. Her husband is the real one, and he must be the real one. My father, ever the cunning old fox, quickly understood. Fine. I'll risk everything to protect my 4th son-in-law, I sneered. Excellent. Then you and my brother know what to do and what not to do. I will be returning to the estate. My brother followed me out. The way he looked at me was completely different. No longer dismissive. 4th sister, I will escort you back. My brother was an official in the Crown Prince's household. With him on my side, even the Marquise's clan relatives would have to show some respect. Sure enough, when we returned to the estate, the two factions were already at odds. Ethan and the guards were on one side. My mother-in-law had gathered the clan relatives and her connections in the capital to protect Adrian, Amelia, and their son. I know my own son. That one is a fake. Eleanor has been unfaithful and has been with the imposter. She should be drowned. My mother-in-law wanted me dead. Her son was back, and she no longer needed a widowed daughter-in-law. I smiled faintly and calmed Ethan, who seemed unable to tolerate anyone slandering me. The clan relatives pointed at me. One of the elders said, "Since the matriarch is certain who the real marquise is, the rest should be handled by the authorities." My brother snapped, "I'd like to see who dares to touch my sister and brother-in-law. Do you think our family is powerless?" With that, he pointed at Adrian. "He says he is the real one, so he is, and he brought back a woman and a child. But if I remember correctly, my sister only married into this family a year ago." My brother and Adrian were old acquaintances. Adrian quickly said, "Master, it is me. It is Adrian. Do you remember? We were study partners for the Crown Prince. One for literature, one for martial arts." My brother sneered. "A joke. Who in the capital doesn't know that I and the Marquis of Enuin were the Crown Prince's study partners?" Adrian, not giving up, added, "Master, we once went boating in the East City and you even wrote me a poem. Such a private matter. No one else would know, right?" He was relying on these details, thinking he had won. But he was a fool. What was friendship? Interest was the ultimate weapon. No wonder he had abandoned his title for a woman. My brother was even angrier. "Nonsense, when did I ever go boating with you? When did I ever write you a poem? Utter lies." Adrian's face fell. He looked at my brother, then at me, and finally understood. My brother and my family were on my side. He still wanted to argue, but my brother made his stance clear. "I only recognize one brother-in-law. If anyone dares to impersonate him, our family will not let it go." The clan relatives began to waver. They couldn't offend the real master of the house, and they couldn't offend my family either. With my brother's support, Ethan and Adrian were temporarily at a stalemate. I couldn't just kill Adrian yet, otherwise people would be suspicious. I had to establish Ethan's identity and leave everyone speechless. The first day's drama was over. My brother returned home. The clan relatives also dispersed. Ethan and I lived in the main courtyard, while Adrian, Amelia, and their son were housed in my mother-in-law's courtyard. After spending some time with him, my mother-in-law was even more certain that Adrian was her biological son. Blood, it seems, is a strange and powerful thing. Unfortunately for her, she couldn't drive us out. The guards and most of the servants no longer took her orders. She was powerless and furious, shouting at the courtyard gate, "Unfaithful woman, heaven will not tolerate it, Eleanor. You will get what you deserve. You blind fool, you can't even recognize your own husband." What own husband? How utterly ridiculous. Ethan walked up and looked down at her, his voice cold and threatening. "Mother, if you continue to provoke me, I will have you thrown out as well." She was a bully who feared the strong. She trembled and ran off, still cursing. When she was a safe distance away, she continued to shout, "Heaven has eyes and has brought my son back. You will get what you deserve." Ethan was furious. I comforted him. "Don't be angry. Just pretend you heard a dog barking." He held me. "You have been wronged. They are all bad people. I want to kill them all." I looked up at him. "Don't be rash. We will have the last laugh." That night, he was like a madman, his kisses fierce and demanding. He kept whispering in my ear that he would make up for everything others had made me suffer, and more. The next day, Adrian brought the junior minister of the Grand Court of Revision. The battle of the true and false marquise continued. Adrian bowed. "Your Excellency, I have asked you here today to be a witness. I will have my former confidants come and identify the impostor. After the truth is revealed, I ask that you arrest the fake and interrogate him." Ethan stood with his hands behind his back, neither servile nor overbearing. "Indeed, Your Excellency, you must open your eyes and see who is impersonating a military officer of this dynasty. Such a person should be severely punished. Furthermore, this scoundrel has married a woman from the border. Her identity is questionable. She could be a spy from an enemy nation. This matter is highly suspicious. The junior minister froze, his expression turning grave. Amelia's face turned pale. She was the daughter of a disgraced official, and was supposed to be in exile on the border. How could she have returned to the capital without permission? It was a capital offense, so she had to keep her mouth shut. Soon, Adrian's former confidants and the families of his fallen men were all summoned to the estate. He once again looked triumphant. He mentioned a few past events, and called out the names of his confidants and their families. He held his teacup, matter-of-factly. Quickly, identify that impostor. This marquise has been through enough and has no more time for this nonsense. He was at ease and even glared at me. Eleanor, you must be regretting it now, right? Even if you come crying and begging, I won't even look at you. But from the very beginning, I had never wanted to marry him. He and Amelia had plotted, thinking I was a pushover, and had deliberately married me to be a widow. What was there to regret? At that moment, a few of the men exchanged glances, and a few of the women pursed their lips. The women were widows. Their husbands had died on the last campaign with Adrian, just as Adrian, his mother, and Amelia thought Ethan was about to be exposed. These people said, "You are the fake one." They were firm without a hint of hesitation. Adrian thought he had misheard. The teacup fell from his hand. But I smiled. Before this, I had personally delivered money and grain to the families of his confidants. I had taken care of their families. Because he had faked his death, a crime of deceiving the emperor. He had abandoned all his men. These people only felt hatred and contempt for him. He had abandoned his estate, his men, and his honor. He had chosen to run away with the daughter of a disgraced official. Clearly, this was not a man worth following. Ethan's expression was grave. He said to the junior minister, "Your Excellency, the truth is before you. You must thoroughly investigate this man." Adrian was not convinced. He was furious. But a person in a rage loses their reason, and a person without reason has no brain. He spewed a torrent of insults. The junior minister frowned. Truly a boor from the countryside uncouth. Men, arrest this man and woman and take them to the Grand Court of Revision. Adrian and Amelia were arrested. They shouted and protested all the way, even insulting the junior minister. The junior minister was so angry he retorted, "Boor, scoundrel." Seeing this, my mother-in-law nearly fainted. Today, Ethan and I had won again. But it wasn't over. That evening, after my mother-in-law woke up, she came to see me with the swaddled baby. She had deliberately avoided Ethan, waiting until he was out of the estate. She had completely changed her tune, smiling obsequiously and showing me the baby. "Daughter-in-law, look at this child. Isn't he lovely? He looks just like the Marquis when he was little." Rest assured, no matter what, you are the official wife of the estate. If you are willing, this child can be raised under your name, as your son. Is still a fake, my own son. How could I not recognize him? What is the point of staying with a fake? Come to your senses. I was speechless. It was hilarious. If I wanted a child, couldn't I have my own? Raising a thankless child was worse than having no child at all. I feigned shock. "Mother, what are you talking about? My husband is the real one. That scoundrel is the fake one. The junior minister has already made his decision. What is there to be confused about? This child is a bastard. I will not raise him. You should take him away. Out of sight, out of mind. He was just a baby. I wouldn't harm him. But that didn't mean I would forget the betrayal of my past life. What if I raised him with all my heart and soul? He had been the one to personally serve me poisoned ginseng soup. Seeing that she couldn't persuade me, my mother-in-law grew angry. "You unfaithful thing. You are already tainted. The estate has not thrown you out, which is already a kindness. How can you be so ungrateful?" I smiled faintly. "If you keep talking nonsense, I will start to suspect that you are in league with that scoundrel. Mother, don't forget, my husband is now the master of this house, and I hold the household token." She was furious. She wanted to throw a tantrum. Unfortunately, the baby in her arms started to cry. She was so worn out by the child that she was on the verge of collapse and had to leave. That night, the more I thought about it, the angrier I got. I pestered Ethan to give me a child. He was, of course, more than happy to oblige. My mother-in-law said that staying with a fake marquis was pointless, but I found it extremely interesting. I was also beginning to understand the joys of it. While Ethan and I were indulging in our passion, we were also preparing for the next turn of events. A centipede dies but never falls down. Adrian had been released from the Grand Court of Revision. He had learned his lesson and no longer came directly to the estate or confronted Ethan head-on. He went to beat the drum of grievance. This time, he wanted an audience with the Emperor. The Emperor was also very curious. After all, a case of a true and false marquis was unheard of. Ethan and I were summoned to the palace. Before we left, I asked him, "Are you afraid?" He smiled with complete confidence. "As long as I can spend my life with you, my lady, nothing else matters. I am not afraid of anything. You shouldn't be afraid either." We exchanged a smile and entered the palace together. My father and brother were also there. They knelt before the Emperor and strongly supported Ethan. "Your Majesty, I know my own son-in-law very well. It is clear who is real and who is fake. This scoundrel is obviously the fake one." "Yes, Your Majesty, my brother-in-law is a brave and heroic man. If he had not died in battle, he would have immediately returned to the capital to report, not stayed on the border to marry and have a child." I couldn't help but marvel. Excellent people in the same boat. Rowing together interest is the best unifier. The Emperor was quite intrigued. He listened to Adrian and Ethan's self-clarifications, then looked at me. "Lady, you are the Marquise of Anyuan's wife. Tell me, how do you determine who is real and who is fake?" "A person who has died once is calm in any situation." I was at ease without a hint of nervousness, and knelt. "Your Majesty, I had never seen my husband before. On our wedding night, he left for war before he even lifted my veil. But I am certain that my husband is an honorable man, and would never do anything to disgrace his family. He would not abandon his country, he would not abandon his family, and he would not betray Your Majesty's trust. As long as my husband is alive, he will return to the capital and continue to serve Your Majesty. He would never be a deserter who fakes his death." The Emperor was very pleased with my righteous words. He thought for a moment. "Now, the handwriting, the spear techniques, the martial arts have all been compared and verified. Both of these men could be the Marquis of Anyuan, but the lady's words are more moving." At that moment, Ethan, kneeling beside me, said in a clear, strong voice, "Your Majesty, I am willing to serve the Great Way and Your Majesty until my death. I have uncovered a secret of great importance. I ask for Your Majesty's judgment." The Emperor was even more interested. "Oh, then tell me." Ethan glanced at Adrian with contempt and sarcasm. "Your Majesty, the woman this scoundrel has married is the daughter of a disgraced official. Her father's surname is Lin. He is the traitor who sold out our country several years ago. The entire Lin family was exiled to the northwest. For this woman to have conspired with this scoundrel to infiltrate the ranks of our military is a terrifying thought, Your Majesty." This was enough to make the Emperor's decision. Who was real and who was fake no longer mattered. Adrian's face turned pale. Amelia's body went limp, and she collapsed on the floor. But even then, they both insisted they had not committed treason. Adrian shouted in the great hall, a last-ditch effort. "Your Majesty, it is true that this woman is the daughter of a disgraced official. But I am also truly the Marquis of Anyuan." Since there was not enough evidence of their treason, the Emperor did not sentence them to death. Instead, he issued an edict, labeling Adrian a seditious scoundrel. Amelia was to be given 30 lashes, and in half a month would be exiled to the northwest with the other prisoners, never to return to the capital. Adrian fared no better, labeled a common scoundrel. He was also given 50 lashes. When my mother-in-law came to the palace gates to pick them up, they were covered in blood, like crawling worms, able to do nothing but grovel. Adrian could never again enter the Marquise's estate. My mother-in-law could only take care of him outside. In just 3 days they were at each other's throats. Star-crossed lovers. Their passion quickly cooled. Amelia cursed Adrian for being useless. He hated her in return. "You bitch. If it weren't for you seducing me, making me fake my death and run away with you, I wouldn't have ended up like this." Hearing this, my mother-in-law's vision went black. She swayed, then grabbed Amelia's hair and started beating her. "So you are the jinx. You, the daughter of a disgraced official. What right do you have to seduce my son? You ruined my son." Mother and son rained blows on her. "You've ruined me. You've ruined my family, jinx. I'll beat you to death, you jinx." Amelia's mouth was full of blood. The baby on the cane was on its last breath. She laughed and cried. "Did I ruin you? It was your own lust, your own incompetence. You didn't want to fight. You couldn't handle the responsibility of a great general. But you pretended to be a hero. You couldn't keep up the act, so you wanted to run away. I just made a suggestion, and you were willing to run away with me. Adrian, I spit on you. If I had known, I would have been better off with a common soldier on the border. You are the real coward. No wonder you were replaced." This hit Adrian where it hurt. In a rage, he beat Amelia to death. She died before she could be exiled. Her body was dragged to a mass grave by my mother-in-law in the middle of the night. After that, the mother and son shamelessly camped outside the Marquise's estate. Adrian was even sentimental. "Eleanor, my dear wife, please recognize your husband and let him come home. Trust your husband from now on, he will treat you well." How disgusting. I just wanted to cover my ears. Ethan stood by my side, and he was very good at being a green tea man. "My lady, he just beat that woman to death, and he could even kill his own son. He is too terrible. A person like that is truly vicious and cruel. We should stay away from him." I nodded. "You are right, husband." A few days later, my mother-in-law, unable to bear the hunger and cold, chose to abandon the darkness and embrace the light. She even acknowledged Ethan as her biological son Adrian. Lying outside the Marquise's gate, finally despaired. His lips were chapped, his body covered in wounds, and he smelled terrible, like a beggar. "Mother, even you don't recognize me." My mother-in-law, having returned to the estate and been fed, wolfed down her food, completely ignoring him. See, selfish people are the first to crack under pressure. She loved her son, but she loved herself more. Adrian died. When his body was found, it had been gnawed on by wild dogs. The former Marquis of Anjouan died without a proper burial. When my mother-in-law heard the news, she went mad, but strangely, she didn't go to find his body. Instead, she came to see Ethan. She insisted on checking the top of his head. "You have a black mole on the top of your head, don't you?" "Let me see. I must see it clearly. So it was you who came back for revenge. You've had your eye on my son all along, haven't you?" I was confused. Ethan took my hand. He was nervous and quickly explained. "My lady, I do have a secret, but my feelings for you are pure. I only want to be with you." He was usually so composed, but when it came to me, he was insecure. So I gave him the security he needed. Having lived a past life, I naturally understood his true feelings for me. I nodded and smiled. "Rest assured, husband, I believe you." He finally relaxed. He took off his jade crown and let my mother-in-law see the obvious mole. Her yellowed eyes widened, her body swayed, and she became even more frantic, almost hysterical. "So it is all retribution." She collapsed on the floor, a withered figure. She had aged 10 years in a short time. Ethan looked down at her. "Tell me about what happened back then. Did you have a choice?" Perhaps a person's words are kind when they are about to die. Her eyes were vacant as she began to ramble. "In this dynasty, twins are considered unlucky. When I gave birth to twin sons, I planned to kill one. I chose to let the older brother live and to strangle the younger one. But that child was so resilient. I strangled him for a long time, but he still had a breath left." As she spoke, her expression became strange and twisted. "So I stopped and had him thrown out. If I had known, I should have strangled you to death. It would have been better if you had died then. Your brother would not have had any trouble. You are a curse. You are truly unlucky." She scrambled to her feet and tried to scratch his face. He sidestepped her, and she lost her footing, falling and hitting her head on a stone stool. With a crack, her neck broke, and she died instantly. He only glanced at her, and then gave a bitter smile. So, all the suffering I've endured all these years was because of a rumor about unlucky twins. My heart ached for him. I hugged him from behind. Husband, you still have me. They don't want you, but I do. Since we had promised to be together, we would walk this path together. Ethan had the old Marquise's blood in his veins. He gradually became a decisive and effective leader. His conduct was impeccable. In less than 5 years, he had become a leading figure among the military officers. But he had another secret in our room. He would shed his role as the master of the house and liked to play his former role. One day he knelt at my feet, placed a small whip in my hand, and looked at me with puppy dog eyes, like a large wolf waiting for a treat. My queen, you haven't punished me in 3 days. The candles flickered, the curtains swayed. He was finally sated. He looked up at me, his eyes full of coquettish. My queen, are you satisfied? This new way of life was a bit much for me. Are all men like this? Or is he just different? As I was thinking, my thoughts were once again scattered to the 9 heavens. In our eldest son's 18th year, Ethan relinquished his military command and took me traveling. I finally experienced a carefree life. With endless money, a loving husband, and no household chores to worry about. Life was indeed very pleasant.